enter into get wild things because we intellectually disagree with principles, and I cannot zero my level to dissect more about that. Okay, then when you look at the theme of the day, what are we defending? Say journalists should defend truth. And then in defending truth, one of the things that we need to do is to practice what we call ethical journalism. Ethical journalism is just the basis of what we do carry on as journalists. There are principles that we must follow as journalists. When you look at the trend of media today, it has changed. In 1800, there used to be what we call people write and print, write and go and put it on signposts, road sign, and people read. In 1920, when radio came to existence, that is how the broadcast journalist started. But I want to zero my discussion from the year 2010 to date where we have seen the emergence of internet, where internet came with the purpose meant just for people to communicate. It started a long time ago by the US soldiers to help them coordinate their movements. But from that time, when the news site came in, the website, the email address came in, so many people started moving online. And then when you look at the 2020, where we are today again, the three revolutionary blocks, one of which is now artificial intelligence coming to place. Now, this has made public to lose trust in us, the journalists, who do not carry in our mind what they call the basic principle of journalism. In my own thinking, I feel like we have to begin by identifying who are the media owners in this country and what are the potential of those individuals and registration we have. About 98% of these media houses in the country are for business. Now, as journalists, we work on those media houses. Whose interests are we serving? Are we working to carry along our ethical values, or we're just working to serve the purpose of it? Someone will start a radio station. And that's where we have seen this argument emerging between journalists and the media owners. They want to stick along the line of their business. But on principle, as journalists, we also have our ethical values that we need to protect. In media houses that are owned by people with the basic knowledge of journalism, the situation is a little bit different from the media houses owned by people who are business oriented. And that's where now, if we work in the media, there need to serve what we call principle, the editorial independence. These are the engine of the media houses. I don't know how many media houses do have a workable policies, for instance, of governing election. How many media houses have the capacity to have a policy on that? And then we have also the issue of climate change. How many media houses do have policy on climate change? Then when it comes to the issue of fact-checking has come in the time where we almost have 64% of the global population are online. And political parties, individuals have now decided to use this platform to generate what we call misinformation. This and misinformation, what we classify as fake news, are being spread through these platforms. Now, in a newsroom where they don't have the capacity to recruit people, because fact-checking is a very hard thing. You just not move from your home and you sit on a table within fact-checking. Now, looking at the newsroom capacity of fact-checking in Uganda, I think they're average. I'm among the few journalists who are a fact-checker. I know myself, I don't know if you are more than 5. A journalist who is a fact-checker. I'm an accredited fact-checker, especially in elections, where we do fact-check the spread of misinformation in society. Now, the newsroom which do not have the capacity to build the capacity of the individuals who should be able to fact-check, and this is where the center of misinformation are. I developed a newsroom policy for one of the community radios where we recommended that in the modern time of journalism, we need to take the social media managers as a full-time job. And then all newsrooms must have at least 2 fact-checkers. Fact-checking goes beyond the editorial editors. Because sometimes politicians say more than 2 other people have died of malaria. And we carry and say, okay, according to the RDC, according to the SC5, say about this. But how do we attribute this to? For instance, Was there a study done that came out with that particular statistic? Is it the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health that has released the report? Those are what we call now fact-checking. Now for you to do that, you must acquaint yourself with basic tools. Fortunately, the modern time has given us digital tools where you can just go and sit and look. Was this true? Even the President himself or herself can make a statement that the journalist needs to fact-check. The minister, permanent secretary do it. But now the capacity of the newsroom, then, as I say, in Uganda is still low. And that's why, as my brother Pukona said, we may be propagating a lot of misinformation. And I'm worried during the election time here, where the content creators have become the reliable source of, platforms where the politicians look at how fast their information can reach out. Because the newsroom, that's what they call gatekeeping. They must go undergo a lot of fact-checking, they must go. But now on social media, where someone who is on the social media, his intention is monetization. We have a platform that's already being paid by Google. What you need is the number of people following you, people liking you, people sharing what you already share. But they don't dig into detail to look, am I sharing the right thing? We are seeing in Uganda where the political parties, the politicians, and the individuals are going to use a number of content creators to spread a lot of misinformation. And this is where now the work journalists should be. If the content creators, or which we call them the citizen journalists, are doing this, what are we doing as journalists to counter whatever comes on the social media that is being done, whether by journalists or by the content creator? That is not true. Because in elections where journalists do not tell the truth, we are misleading. And that fear is there. As we celebrate this day, I think the media managers are here. We need to take this one as something very important. And finally, the second thing that we need to do is, in journalism, when we talk about the ethical value, are we trying to prioritize our accuracy? Because journalists always survive where there is, you tell the truth. It is pie as pie. You can say pie ara. When we say leave pie as pie, let it be pie, don't add ara. What are we doing in prioritization, verification, and balance in reporting? Now, I want to say we are setting agenda. We have come at a time where agenda is no longer being set by the media themselves. Agenda are being set by society. You find something that just occurred, it's already on social media, journalists must go and follow whatever has occurred. You find you're talking about here, someone down in the Lagos has taken photos and shared on social media platform. People are following, and we are no longer setting agenda. But what we can do now, this may be a subject for discussion, but what we can do now, in a situation where the social media is competing with the journalists, this is an opportunity for us. How fast can we move? I told you during our time, it was already Uganda. You wait until 8 p.m., then you get to the news. But as I talk now, there are so many people who are getting information via their phones. How can journalists, how can media houses make themselves also move as fast as social media team, the content creator? Because if you leave time for misinformation to go, even for a second, the impact is more than the information that will come afterwards. We are saying people even rely more on something that is crazy, but they leave out facts. So as we go down to 2026, Ben, as we carry on the issue of ethical values, journalists need to stand and resist what they call manipulation and censorship. We can only do this, like Peter said before, when we are knowledgeable, when we are able to upgrade our skills, when we are able to go to school. And then the last thing that we should do, journalists are for the brave. Like Innocent said, if you do fear, if I do this, someone will beat me, you will never write a story and never seem to cite me. You must put your life at a risk, but manageable risk. In journalism, you need to set strategy and exit points. You may go and investigate story, but your exit strategy should be very clear. You should not go and get yourself stuck in the story you're doing, and at the end of the day, you die. You should have your exit strategy. And what we do today is what we call collaborative journalism. How much are we involving others? I do a story in Nigeria, colleagues are doing in Cameroon, someone is doing in Uganda. That's what we call collaborative journalism. I work with a media house that is highly restricted, but I'm my friend, people are better working in a fairly restricted media house. How can I link those sensitive issues to him and we do it so that he can do it himself, not just me going alone. So we are saying holding power is very important because in a situation where journalists hold power, and that's what I say. As I end, I want to make this quote. As journalists, we must be brave, vigilant, and united. Because truth remains a foundation for any free and democratic society. What we are saying, in a situation where journalists are divided, you go and cover election, the other team have been receiving underground envelopes, the other team are not doing it, we are not united. In a situation where you want to break the story fast, no, what I say, journalists are moving away from the story news breaking. We are no longer in the newsness of our society today. Journalists now go into what we call investigative. How deep do you go beyond? Thank you.
I want to actually put your mind in one